Welcome to my new channel. As you can see, there is a cartoon instead of raw footage, and I got this strategy from another vlogger I saw on YouTube who was giving commentary on a television show and using a cartoon. So I thought that I would try that instead of raw footage. Let me know what your feedback is about seeing a cartoon instead of the raw footage. Do you like it? Just tell me what you think about it. So let's get into the Real Housewives of Potomac. And one of the issues that has come up in the first episode as well as the second episode has to do with the rules of etiquette and who's violating the rules of etiquette and how. And what is really interesting about that emphasis on the violations of rules of etiquette are that the women who have mentioned it are violating themselves. So let's get into Karen, for example. There was a birthday party that was given for her and she was late. It is extremely rude to be late anywhere, whether you are the honoree, whether you are the host, or whether you are the guest. Tardiness is always rude. It is always rude. Even if you call ahead and say, I'm going to be late, it is still rude. It's just that you notified them that you were coming late, but it doesn't erase the fact that it's just rude to be late. So that was number one. Number two, if you are late, you're already being rude, and so you have already kind of relinquished your entitlement to be seated at a certain place. So I think that Karen is being late was rude to everyone who was waiting on her. Their time is just as important as her time. If people are attending a social gathering, that doesn't mean that they have all night to wait for you. If the invitation says that the dinner is from 6 to 8, you don't show up at 6:15, for example. And so I think that that's kind of rude. However, if you are hosting an event and you would like all of your guests to sit in specific places, you need to communicate that. And if you have not communicated that, then the guests are free to sit anywhere. That is a rule. If the host does not tell people where they would like everyone to sit, then it's assumed to be a free-for-all. So that is not a violation on the part of Giselle. The host did not indicate that there was assigned seating. So I think that is the whole issue about that birthday party in terms of who violated and who didn't. And as far as the women discussing the issue about waiting until the honoree arrived before you order food or drink, that is a moot point because the honoree should never be late. No one should be late anyway. So that kind of needed to be said about whatever controversy surfaced about the birthday party. Also, during that birthday party, Giselle was asking personal questions about Charisse and her husband and what the arrangement is. And I just think that even when women get together and they're with women who know each other very well, I just think that personal questions about marriage is off limits. Personal questions about people's children is off limits. Even if you're in a setting where everyone has known everyone for several years, it's just not appropriate. So let's leave the birthday party. That is enough. But let's also go into what happened at Charisse's house. Now, what happened at Charisse's house was that Charisse was upset because Giselle invited someone to her home without permission. Yes, that is a violation of rules of etiquette. You never bring anyone to someone's home without that host saying, hey, I'd like you to come to my home and you're free to bring someone. They should freely offer that. You should not even call and ask someone, can I bring someone to your home? Because it should be assumed that you should not be doing that. If someone is having an event, their invitation will stipulate whether or not you can bring a guest. And it is assumed that the guest should not be your children or your teenager if it is an adult. So they shouldn't have to say, and it shouldn't be your teenage son or your children. That should be assumed. So the invitation should specify that. Also, Giselle's friend came in some shorts, tennis shoes, and a hat. I don't know if there was any type of attire that was specified on the invitation for the event, but if there was on the invitation that you can bring a guest, and Giselle provided information that she would bring one, which she didn't, obviously, there is still the issue of what should everybody be wearing, because clearly he was not dressed for the event in the same way that Giselle was. She was in a very long kind of summery dress. It just seemed like he was a little too casually dressed. And also, I think he was acting very familiar. He touched her hair, or tried to, when he first walked in her house. Also, when Giselle said, "Oh, I brought him to do your hair," clearly she already had a stylist upstairs. I just think if someone has not asked you to refer someone who performs services, either makeup, hair, whatever the service may be, if they haven't asked you to give them a recommendation, you should not be taking it upon yourself to bring somebody and saying, "Oh, I brought them to do your makeup," or "I brought them to do your hair." So I think that is not appropriate, nor is it polite. I just think that if people have not asked you for recommendations or for assistance with some part of their appearance or anything, that you shouldn't take it upon yourself. And so I think that was an issue. Also, I think that Charisse was very inappropriate. She yelled at them and said, "Oh, you're 5 minutes from leaving my home." That's not how you handle things. If it is your home and somebody is being rude, you pull them aside and you speak to them in a certain tone of voice, one-to-one, eyeball to eyeball. No reprimanding people from another room while you're in one room, and that's just not how things should be handled. Also, if somebody comes to your house to help you, you should remain in the room assisting and either being taught how to do it. You should always be in the room if they're there to help you. Also, if somebody's coming over, particularly to help you cook or something like that, you also should have all of the utensils out. Even if you do have to go upstairs or go somewhere to get ready, you should always say, "Hey, in 15 minutes, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to start getting my hair and makeup done. What are the utensils that you need so I can get everything out? What size pots do you need? What size trays do you need?" You ask all of that. You lay everything out for them. Preferably that should have already been taken care of before they even arrived to help you. But if it wasn't, that certainly should be the first order of business. It seemed that Charisse was upset that they were going through her cupboards, but she violated by not having everything they needed anyway and being present in the room herself. And if she had to leave the room, having everything laid out. So she was wrong in doing that. Also, Karen was wrong at that event because she confronted Giselle about what occurred at the birthday party. You never go to somebody else's house confronting any of their guests, even if you know their guests very well. You never do that. Someone's social event is not the time for you to clear the air. If there is a social event and you have an issue with a guest who you know will be there, you call them up, you have lunch, you have dinner, you resolve it before the day of that person's event. You don't wait to the event and then decide to resolve it at the event. And even if you're the host, the same thing applies. If you have extended an invitation to somebody and there's an issue between both of you, however you wanted to invite them anyway, you call them up and say, "I'd like to clear the air on this issue before my party." You don't even address it at your own party. And so I think that, for these women to be talking about who's violating etiquette, these are such basic rules that everybody probably learns at the college age about, how to behave socially. So tune in And I'll go into part 2 of these violations of rules of etiquette.